and welcome to NewFilmmakers Los Angeles in partnership with Movie Maker magazine. My name is Danny DeLillo. We're here at the South Park Center. I'm delighted to be joined with the very, very talented Ray with his fantastic film, Guillotine. Let's take a little clip.
The courts of the Fifth Republic of France under Charles de Gaulle have found you guilty of crimes of treason and political dissonance. May God have mercy on your soul.
Ray, I am so happy to talk with you in person, on camera, to celebrate your... I don't know where to start with your feature. There's so much to talk about. But for those that haven't seen it, tell us a brief synopsis.
Thank you very much for having me in NewFilmmakers LA. Guillotine is sort of a culmination. I'm about to turn 50 in March. So it's a culmination of 30 years of being in the film business, and probably another 20 years before that. I was, 19, 18 years of watching films, experiencing life, and sort of, the pressure ratchets up as you get older, When I turned 26, I was like, oh my God, you didn't make Citizen Kane, jump off a bridge. And sort of, then you get to a point where COVID really galvanized a lot of things, obviously, I think for most of us. What do you want to do in your life? Are you going to do it? Or are you going to walk away? What's going to happen? And it sort of all came together. Things that are in the background of my work is everything I do and everything I enjoy doing is I'm a big history student, and sort of connecting it to the present and sort of seeing the patterns that repeat, right?
Yeah.
The film's called Guillotine. Obviously, it's about the guillotine, but it's not that I have a particular obsession over it, other than I grew up in Iran. I'm an Iranian. I'm a childhood of diaspora. I came here when I was a kid during the Iran-Iraq War, and you sort of, that paints everything you do. And growing up there, you have the French Revolution, which where the guillotine started, and I grew up during the Iranian Revolution, no less bloody. So a lot of people were getting pulled into courts and dispatched here and there, and I happened to see one afternoon driving through the street, some people getting hanged, out in public. And, you just see it out the corner of your eye, and you're thinking about it, and you're like, what happened? What's going on there? What a horrible feeling that is. And maybe a week or two later, my dad takes me to the movies to see a wonderful movie, Papillon, Dustin Hoffman and Steve McQueen. It's like the precursor to Shawshank Redemption, right? And in there, these men are on an island, and if you try to escape, they're like, we're going to use the guillotine. That's the first time I'd seen a guillotine. And there's something visceral, iconic, the words sort of escape me in this moment, but there's something very deeply impactful when you see that thing, and you see, they put you in a machine, and you pull the cord, and there goes the head, and it's fast, and it's sort of shockingly quick.
Yeah.
And then there's the human aspect of the guy who's getting it done and the person who's doing it to the guy.
Yeah.
And just all these dynamics, which I thought, well, this is kind of like a slice of humanity.
Yeah.
Kind of where we are right now, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And the idea of, execution and capital punishment, and that concept of the eye for an eye. And you say, well, okay, eye for an eye, you took my hand, I'll take your hand, you took my life, I'll take your life. And now we're in a world where this eye for an eye concept has gotten to the point where there's no more eyes to see. Everybody's poking each other's eyes out.
Yeah.
So you have nothing, perspective and sort of measuring, getting some sort of a sense of balance is sort of out of whack.
Yeah.
So I thought it was appropriate, and also on a very practical level, showcase of what I'm into.
Yeah.
I like horror. I like comedy. I like, beautiful drama. I love, piecing history and fantasy and sort of weaving it all together. So it was a great opportunity in a long-winded way.
Well, you had everything in that film. You had all of those genres and more.
Yes. All in a blender, hit the button.
It was amazing.
And then figure it out later.
I mean, no, but honestly, so a lover of history as well. I mean, it's such a grossly horrible way to leave the planet, right? It's so immediate. Absolutely. And it's so devastating. It's so it's hard to look at. It's hard to, everything is awful about it essentially. And the fact you kind of journey through different countries, different cultures, different centuries, and kind of figuring out that from the time that the earliest time you took us back to the present day, we are still doing the same thing. We are no better. It's just shaping itself around the world in different communities, but we're still, you know, eye for an eye. It's still very much like that. And it's almost ironic that, you know, as we're kind of reaching a height in certain parts of the planet, that, you know, we're going through these similar and same things. I'm amazed how you managed to, you know, firstly, historically, bring all that together. I am curious, as you journeyed into this, did you always know the type of stories you wanted to tell, the areas you wanted to go to, and how did you decide to kind of formulate that together?
I had over the years, because of this sort of morbid obsession is a strong word, but sort of, you know, affinity for this guillotine. Affinity is a really bad word. That's not even better.
I know exactly what you mean.
It's just, well, you know, there's something about it. So I would read here and there, you know, there was a scientist, and you know they're going to dispatch him with the guillotine during the French Revolution, and you know he's sitting there and he's invented the metric system, and he came up with like the periodical charts, and he was a brilliant mind. And his assistant sort of like, you know, this is horrible. He says, well, let's make the best of it. You know, when I go under, they're going to cut me. You start counting. I'm going to blink. You start counting. And then, you know, you realize the guy's been alive for 30 seconds, aware on some level for 30 seconds. So you're like, oh, wow, this is what a horrible state. Then you read about Nazi Germany, and they you know, killed over 30,000 people by the end of the war, more than the French Revolution and everything else before. So you sort of, you know, I had these anecdotal stories laying around, and I knew that I wanted to do something where it's like, whatever my first film was going to be, I might not get a chance at a second film. You know, the first one you can go call hat in hand to friends and family. Do you have $1? Do you have $1? Do you have, you know, and they might help you out the first time. The second time, you're sort of on your own, I think. So I said, okay, if I'm going to get one chance, throw it all on the table, try as many styles, right? So like one chapter in Saddam Hussein's, you know, his son's dungeon in the basement somewhere, and sort of, okay, if somebody wants to hire you, I try to be practical as much as I'm crazy. If somebody wants to hire you for, you know, Saw number 6, can you show your skills there? Okay, but then what else can you do? You're all in one room. How do you cover that? How do you make it look bigger than it is? Okay, so I figured out that one. Then I have a big affinity for the Hammer films of the 60s from England. Frankenstein, Dracula, you know, these great films that they would make. And they had a color palette, and they had a style, and they had a vibe to them that's very distinct. And sort of like, oh man, I love that stuff. These are things that as a child, watching film, watching TV, they sort of informed a part of me.
Yeah, absolutely.
Stanley Kubrick movies, you know, Barry Lyndon and things like that. So I'm like, okay, let's do one in that realm, you know? What would the master do? But of course, everything has a twist and a twist. It's like nothing's a pure, you know, Mel Brooks is I'm a huge Mel Brooks fan. So.
No, you had the combination of all, like, but what I love is you made it your own, Ray. And it was such a pleasure to be at the film festival because, you know, I have to say that many features over the years, but the love you received, not just from your amazing support of people that are, you know, fans, family, friends, colleagues, etc., but the cast and crew. I mean, there's a lot of love for you and what you brought together to the table to make this feature. And I think it resembles the fact you gave everyone a chance. You gave people a chance that wouldn't normally get a chance. And like everything from your DP to your production design to the incredible cast that you had and crew. Is that something that was important to you? I mean, you know, I feel like even though you've been doing this for 30 years, you are the independent producer that we all should want to work with because you give people actually opportunity.
Absolutely. Now, giving opportunity, it wasn't sort of like, you know, whoever comes up, jump on in. There's a mandate, because I was like, okay, first of all, the budget, I can't even speak on it. It's mind-blowing how little we had to work with. So I said, well, all things being equal, we're in LA, right? Mecca of cinema. Everybody comes here, the best of the best, and everyone who has, you know, ambition. And I said to myself, and I said to my wife, who's my producing partner and just life partner and everything else, I said to her, I said, you know, starting with the actors, I'm like, let's find people was star quality.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to get a name person, and I've gone that path many times with quote unquote name people, and it becomes a much bigger thing than what
Yeah.
you signed up for, and invariably the power dynamic is
Yeah.
off because, oh, I'm doing you a favor, and it's like, no, I'm doing us a favor.
Yeah.
Okay, so find new people. There's a deeper mandate underneath that of like looking for the person who has something to prove.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Who's welled up like I am, who has
Yeah.
all this, like, it almost becomes a psychological problem where you're like, can you just give me a chance? I know what I'm doing. Let me show you. Let me, will someone give me a shot? That sort of energy. And you smell it, they're ready. They're like,
no, it's true.
What time? 11 o'clock, I'll be there at 10:30. I'm ready, So when you get someone who's filled to the brim, who's dying to, share their art with you and dying to like engage and exchange and all that stuff, you'd be a fool not to take them because they're going to kill for you. They're going to stay hour 15, 16, 17, some days 18 hours. It's almost illegal. You can't even do that. But getting them to be there and show up and be present. And I'm not a taskmaster of like, 100 takes. We don't have that luxury. Literally it's like, you have 2 takes, 3 takes. We got to move.
Yeah.
You know
exactly.
what I mean?
Yeah.
So getting people who are dedicated. And I think going forward, even if it's somebody who's an established name, finding, like the comedy actor who's never gotten a chance to do the drama, that sort of thing will continue, I think, 100%. And also I feel like karmically, people believed in me. When I got my first investor, that first money, I almost cried. Now, just to put things in perspective, I shot music videos, 5-minute, 3-minute music videos with bigger budgets than my film, over and over. And I would find myself in the most ingracious state of, you only gave me $250,000 to shoot a music video. This is like a $2 million thing. Oh, you bastards. And when I got that first 5,000, I almost cried because it was, a person was saying, I'm believing in you. I'm supporting you.
Yeah.
I'm probably going to lose this money.
Yeah.
This money's gone. I could have done 100 other things with this. Bought myself a really expensive TV. I'm giving you this money. Go make something happen. And then so all of a sudden that energy has to transfer.
Yeah.
Right? I gotta, there's a good phrase for this somewhere, but pay it forward.
Absolutely.
And hire the next person and give them a chance. And I believe this sort of energy, I'm one person. I can only push things so far. If the actor doesn't show up that moment, if the costume person is like, not caring, if the makeup person is just like, get out of here. If everyone isn't showing up and doing their part, well, the whole thing falls apart.
Absolutely.
Right?
And I think it really, every department from, the amazing, design that you had to do for it to create those time periods through to the costume, through the makeup and the hair, through the acting performances. You had to, obviously every single scene was high stakes in its own way, so whatever genre that was, it all really showed and flowed really, really well. I'm amazed, like looking throughout your film and really, like you said initially, what kind of initially inspired you was that, like, I sort of felt like, oh my goodness, we look at what happened as beheading as a thing of like in the Western world as a thing of the past, right? But it's not that long ago that we were doing it, and it's also important to remember who started it and how things around the world have like continued in different formats. And even though we may not have that, we're still doing things in different ways in our own spaces right here. And was that something that, I'm just curious, what did you want your audience, because to journey on your film and take from it, because I'm still thinking about it. I'm still I want, like you said last night, I want to watch it a few times to take even more from it.
Well, an execution is sort of the purest, pure is not the right word, but it's the essence of what it is when you murder, when you take someone's life. Okay. And you can get biblical and go all the way back to Cain and Abel, right? The first murder on record, brother on brother. And I feel like the value of human life is being diminished by the moment. You know what I mean? And there's so much, opposing messaging coming onto us. So, you know, one human being will fall down the well. 500 people, crews, you know, helicopters, the news, everyone descends down. Let's save this one person. 1,000 people die in one bombing, right? So as a human being, what are you supposed to take from this? You know, you're sort of watching. I'm like, well, it is a human being, and every life that gets lost from violence is tragic, right? Especially when it's done by the state. I feel we're all sort of living this passive life. We're handing a lot over to the authorities.
Yeah.
And we're sort of like, I don't want to deal with this. You guys deal with this.
Yeah.
And that's what happens. 3 people come into a room, 2 people come into a room. The guy who's going to get executed and the executioner.
Yeah.
Executioner doesn't know him. It's
Yeah.
completely impersonal. Sorry, bud, it's you. This is my job. Push the button, you know, pull the cord, hit the gas, whatever it is to do it. And I'm sure he goes home, you know, I did my job, right? Where I'm like, okay, well, this is the ultimate diminishment of human existence. And I mean, I don't want to get too heady about it, but,
no, but yeah,
all these, and to capture that energy, you know what I mean? And I'm like, okay, you don't want to be standing on a soapbox talking down to people. Well, here, it's kind of ridiculous. So I did it. One story is kind of comedic. It's kind of horrific. So I do one that's almost like a horror. It's kind of tragic. So I did one that's kind of, you know, shows that tragic aspect of it. It's mechanical. You know, so I do a German story, like a documentary, very bare bones, black and white. And you kind of see like, oh, okay, yeah, you know, it's a machine working. It could be chickens, it could be cows, people, makes no difference, right? And then I also go into like the experience of it, like, well, what's life? And so kind of giving it all vantage, and I still feel like there's a lot left on the table.
Oh, I mean, you could have done a whole series of it. I mean, really, I mean, there's so many more stories to tell.
Absolutely.
I just love that the stories you did tell were so, not only just, you know, obviously quite alarming because, you know, we're getting taught history for those that didn't know about what happened in these certain places and countries, but also just, you know, you took it from all vantage points of death, you know, from whether you're the person doing it or the person on the other end of it, literally. Now, obviously, you know, it's nothing is without an audience. You put all of your, you know, toys in the box together with all the different genres and everything you've learned over like all those years. I hope now you've made this, that you're ready for the next project. But what was it like to share this experience with your cast and your crew and all the people around you? How was that experience? Because you were very loved. That's what I'm gonna say. Yeah.
I think it's also shocks a lot of people because I'm a jokey guy. I'm on set. You know, we're putting an actor into a guillotine. I'm gallows humor, and I'm like, you know, poking him in the butt and doing all kinds of stuff. So people sort of, I disarmed the situation there. So I think when they finally saw the thing, they're like, oh, wow, this, you know, a lot went to work here. But I think the audience part is the most important part. So all the highfalutin and ideas and, you know, oh, my film, my art, you put all that aside for a second. And it's sort of like, this is where the rubber meets the road. And I think it's the most important part because you feel it. If a moment's not working, you smell it. Literally, the pressure in the room changes. When they're hanging on, you feel the tension in the room. So like, I can't replace that. And I love to just, I don't even sit. My wife's always like, why don't you sit and watch? I'm like, I've seen this 100 times. I'm watching them watching it. And I'm feeling it. And I know I'm sitting there. And literally last night I went home and I started editing again. Because I'm like, oh, that shot was like 2 frames too long.
Oh, I love
you could
it.
hold that moment a little bit more. You feel it, like all your senses, everything about the film. You know,
no, you can't help it.
You're up and alive.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
You're so exposed.
Yeah, it's very exposing, but I'm so glad because there's incredible reaction. What is next for you? What's coming next, Ray?
So mentoring is a big part of my next phase because, you know, you have a lot of interests and time is finite. I'm about to be 50. I may have like 3 more years of like actually physically running around. You know,
we need you. No, come on.
Maybe I'll be like some, you know, in a wheelchair, you know. But you hear other people and they're passionate about something and they've been toiling on it. And then our passions sort of align. And I'm like, well, I love that story. I wanted to do that story. Me helping you do it is sort of like I did it too.
Yeah.
You know, and I kind of get that out of my system. I think in a lifetime, I'll probably have maybe 3 or 4 films I want to direct.
Yeah.
But producing and helping other people sort of get their voices out there and making money, why not? You know,
Why not?
All of the above.
Absolutely.
So that's really what excites me now, because
Yeah.
if I'm in position to help the next person,
Yeah.
especially the younger generation, this next generation that's sort of our future,
Yeah.
and instilling these ideas in them of like the responsibility you have, if you
Totally.
care as a filmmaker, to move culture, to move
Mhm.
the world, you know. The right
Absolutely.
movie, I'm convinced the right movie and I'm maybe God will bless me with something like that, where I'll be able to create that thing that people will watch it and they're going to be like, you know what? Done. I'm going to
Yeah.
be a better human being as of today. I'm
Yeah.
going to change my way.
And that is
right?
the power of the moving image right there.
Absolutely.
So, oh my goodness, Ray. Well, listen, that's a beautiful note to end on, because you started about paying it forward, and for you as a filmmaker, that's what you continue to do. But
Absolutely.
thank you for blessing us with your film and all the incredible people that you brought together to make the film, because they all shined in all of their ways that they brought to the table with their talent. So thank you very much. Looking forward to your next project, and welcome to the family.
Thank you. Grateful, and I do believe legends are made here.
Yes.
I've already seen some people where I'm like,
Yes.
you know, I don't know who you are.
Yeah,
but
right here.
Right here.
There
right
you go.
here. Thank you, New Filmmakers LA.